All right, we are live. Little technical difficulties in the morning, but all good. Great to be here with you guys. This is the PKT Roundtable. Today we're going to talk about infrastructure. We're going to talk about the markets, and good to be here with you guys. How you guys doing?
I'm doing good. I just
And
realized that was for us, not the audience.
yeah, exactly. Audience will be listening in. We'll be talking about some good stuff, and Caleb, hopefully you can maybe share your screen too
Yeah,
um, if you
gonna
got
give it a
that
shot.
got that all dialed in.
It's
So
live now. So
what's that?
anybody that goes to the site now, to the infra site, is going to see the ability to create to create a domain.
That's right. All right. Well, cool. Well, let's just jump right into it. Again, great to be here with you guys, and happy to have this conversation. Obviously, seeing a lot of really cool things happen in the community with the packet node. What is it? Packet node kind of worldview, which is really exciting. That's something we've been talking about for just what, like 3 years. That would just be a huge thing to have, and very grateful to our community members. Project that's really creating some great viewpoints on the node distribution and creating some dashboard on setting up infrastructure for PKT. But yeah, I figured and Josh, you're dialing in from Malta. What you want to give a quick little intro on what you're doing right now?
Yeah, just been out here in Malta. Just spoke at Sigma and AIBC, talking about the future of media and how that the intersection with blockchain and crypto. And it's actually been really nice because this is like one of the biggest online gaming, gambling, casino conferences in the world. It's massive. Uh, and I've been talking to a lot of these different casinos out here about onboarding them into the Packet Hub, and looks like there's going to be some good opportunity to go spin up, another kind of addition to the Packet Hub that's online gaming and gambling, which will be really dope.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Well, I'm assuming that everybody who's on here with us knows who we are, but I guess we probably should just do a quick intro. My name is Jesse Berger, one of the founding community members of the Packet Project. We've been working on this project dating back till, what was it, basically 2018, 2019, and launched, well, really 2018, 2019, launched the original layer one blockchain, August 2019, celebrated a 5 year anniversary in August of this year, and made the migration over to Base in August, and been really excited about being into the Base ecosystem. Now running this as a stake to earn project with the incentive for people to run infrastructure nodes rather than running proof of work mining. And yeah, these roundtables, we obviously do them every Wednesday pretty regularly. I mean, maybe miss one here and there, but for the most part, it's been a Wednesday meeting that we've been doing for the last 6 years. And now we've opened it up to the community and really enabling it's more of a free for all for us to chat or have speakers, or in this case today we're going to do a couple demos on some of the technology that Caleb's been building recently, which is really exciting. We're looking forward to sharing it with you. Josh, you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, I'm Josh Berger, also one of the founding community members of Packet. And yeah, we just been building, also built, created Packet Pal and Rowdy, creating utility for the network and easy technology for people to engage and run infrastructure to power the Packet network. So excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. Caleb, you want to give a quick intro because nobody in the world has any
Nobody
idea who you
knows.
are.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm Caleb. I push buttons. Um, I wrote the code, except not the bugs. The bugs, that was the other guy. What else? Did CJDNS 15, 12, whatever years ago, started it, and been beating the dead horse ever since. But right now we got about 50 public peers running right now because of the staking and running a CJDNS node. So that's pretty exciting because it's going to be able to let a lot of people on the network.
Yeah, that is really exciting. Give a quick just a quick rundown on just CJDNS and what I'd love to just hear quickly on the vision, on CJDNS and then where you see it going right now, just based on everything that, rubber meeting the road.
There's two different visions. I don't want to get too into the weeds on the
Sure.
long-term vision, because there's a lot of stuff about like how the internet works versus how it ought to work, and you have to understand prefix matching and source routing. But what we're kind of sprinting to do right here is create this kind of cool little VPN network where everybody can contribute their infrastructure. You can run a website or whatever you want inside the network, or you can use it as a VPN. You can exit from the network to a VPN exit. You can also run a website in the network and do a reverse VPN. So that's where you're able to publish your website to the outside world, kind of like what Cloudflare does. But inside the network, you don't need to go apply for an IP address. IP addresses are free. They just come when you have a key. So you can run all the nodes you want, like in your house or wherever. It doesn't matter. You can run a website on a Raspberry Pi without having to deal with the IP addressing issue. So that's what we're gunning for in the immediate term, to get some really cool utility in people's hands, and also ability to register domains. Those will be able to work with the public internet too. So yeah, that's kind of our short-term sprint, is to get to make a bang and make something that people can touch and see and start to have ideas about.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So let's just jump right into this demo. We've been talking about this for 6 months, so it's exciting that it's finally here. The first step was launching the stake to earn and realigning the incentives coming from the network so that people are being rewarded for their participation, and it's not just weighted to the pools. That's how it used to be with the mining with the original proof of work mining. The pools set the rules about how much they pay to the miners, and what we saw is that it became so expensive to run a pool. The pools really didn't need the community very much at all, and as they kind of centralize the resources around efficiency for cost optimization, they realized that they just really didn't need to pay the miners very much at all. And as a result, it just became unprofitable to mine. So most people stopped mining, and all the reward distributions were just going to the pools. So there was no incentive for really anyone to participate at that point. We just really wanted to reactivate the community participation. So with stake to earn, you can buy PKT, or if you already own PKT, you can stake to earn. And there's a couple different ways that you can do that. The first way is just PKT staking. There are several different durations that you can stake for. The longer you stake for, the higher the earning multiple that you get, and it's just weighted based on your stake. And then the second way is to stake into the liquidity pool on Uniswap, which has two benefits. One, you get a participation in a million packet per day that's paid out proportionally based on all the people staking into the liquidity pool. And last I looked, I think it was well over 70 different LP stakes, 70 different liquidity providers, which is really unprecedented. If you go look at even some of the biggest, billion-dollar projects, you won't see that they have more than even just a handful of liquidity providers. So it's a telltale of how the liquidity pool is now being crowdsourced, and a lot of people are participating there. But more importantly is that if you stake for longer than a week in the liquidity pool, you also get the LP staking to calculate packet staking. So you basically get a double reward. And we're seeing a lot of people who are recapitalizing their daily yields and adding the asset to their stake, and it creates almost like a compound effect on your yield. So it's been really exciting, seeing a reduction in the sell pressure and seeing people not just staking to earn, but the second piece, which we launched on the 30th of October, is infrastructure. And so now each packet stake, to be able to get those daily yields other than the LP, to get the daily yields on packet staking, you have to run infrastructure. So in the month of November, which is basically a grace period, everyone's setting up their infrastructure nodes and now needs to pair their infrastructure node with their stake to continue to earn the packet staking reward as of approximately November 30th. And so over the last few months, Caleb has been designing a dashboard and building all the technology to allow people to do the staking. And this is really where CJDNS intersects with Packet on Base and the stake to earn protocol, so that the incentives, instead of it just being like, hey, I set up a computer and I'm just running some software and just earning PKT and then I can just sell. Now you have to run physical infrastructure that helps power the network. So it's actually now requiring people to create infrastructure, routing technology for the network in order to continue earning the reward. So Caleb, bravo to you, taking this from idea to wireframes to web page to now you have this whole entire dashboard that allows people to, run this physical infrastructure that actually creates nodes, on ramps, and connectivity, mesh networking throughout the network and across the world. It's unbelievable.
Thank you. I was
I'm
just
happy.
posted on Twitter the screenshot. So you want to see the presentation?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's
All
dive
right.
in. Share your screen.
All right. Let's hope this works.
Yeah.
Share screen.
Hopefully.
Entire screen, because I got nothing to hide.
Close your donation link to WikiLinks.
Too cheap. If I did have a donation to WikiLeaks, I'd probably be advertising it. So anyway, here it is. There's the infrastructure page. And also little detour. We now have the network steward page included right in the dashboard. The winner is me, because I ran for this a long time ago, but we should get this active again with candidacy and things going on here. And everybody, you get to just vote in your stakes. So you go in your stake and you can go in and click, what is it? Update data. That's where you can set your network steward vote right there. And that's going to be used to select the network steward. So you'll show up on this list. But anyway, infrastructure. So you click add unit. It used to only allow you to add a CJDNS node. Now you can add a domain name. So you just click here, and the domain names that are allowed is packet.anything. It's packet.any single top level domain. So if I were to say I'm going to stake packet.cash, find cache here. I'm not going to, because packet.cache is used for a bunch of other stuff right now. But let's just imagine I was going to stake packet cache, and let's put that with zero assigned credits. So when you assign the yield credits, that's what makes your infrastructure item, your unit, your domain, or whatever you're staking. That's what makes it yield. So it yields based on the amount of yield credits. The yield credits you get is based on how much packet you have staked up in the staking page. So you stake, you get yield credits, you take the yield credits, you run infrastructure, apply the yield credits to the infrastructure, and the infrastructure yields. So I'll just create this, and hopefully there isn't too much congestion on our on the network right now, and it'll let me do it. And then you'll be able to see what you're supposed to do next once you've created this. So I'll just hit confirm here. Come on. And once this is created, it's going to show up as faulted. It's going to show up as not working correctly because, well, you haven't actually set up your domain yet. And then what you're going to need to do is go to your domain registrar, and you're going to need to set the let's see, it finished but didn't load, so I'm going to just reload the page here. You got to go to your domain registrar, and you got to find the domain. Oh, come on. Well, I'll take packet.wiki here since I think my computer's being a little slow. This one, and I'll just click details on that. And so you can see here, it says what you need to have. These are your domain name servers that you need to have. Name servers, right? And so you've got, by default, you've got these ones from Namecheap in this case. And so down here, it tells you kind of how your yielding is working. And based on the country that your domain is in, you can get different bonuses. And then your bonus percent will give you your effective yield credits. And that's the yield. The effective yield credits is basically your share of the yields. So all that we really care about here is we just need these things. I'm going to copy this one, ns80.packeteer.com and cjdns.fr. So in the future, you're going to be able to register also a name server, and the name server, that's going to end up going on this list for people who register domains. But anyway, I'll take you to Namecheap, and let's see here. Come on. One job. There we go. No.
Here, let me know when you're ready to show your screen again.
Oh, did my screen go away?
No, you want it still up there?
Yeah, you might as well. I mean, it shouldn't take. So I'm just logging into Namecheap here, and then you go to your domain packet.wiki in this case, and you got to scroll down to your DNS servers, and you set this to be custom DNS, and then you put these entries that come from the domain and set those as your name servers, and then you go back to the dashboard, and you need to confirm that you got the right one there. That's how that works. So once that's all good, you should get it should be green like this, and then your domain is once you have that 100% okay, your domain is ready to yield, and when the yields begin that day, it will your domain is gonna yield. All right, you can shut the sharing off now. Let's see.
So in essence, what you're doing here, and just to kind of summarize, is and that's specifically for people who have domains, right? So if you have bought a packet.wiki or packet.business or whatever the domain name that you own is, you can stake that domain, and then you can stake yield credits against that domain. One of the real benefits of domains as well is that there's no cap. So it's specifically beneficial to people who do have large packet stakes, because if you're staking a CJDNS node, currently the cap is $5,000. But if you're on a 4x yield multiplier, then it's really only $1,000, $1,250, which is something that I'm really favorable to increasing now that I know that it includes the 4x multiplier. That we move that up probably to 10,000. I know that's something that would come later, but just because a lot of people do have, maybe 5 million packet, but yeah, it would be a lot of work to run 5 nodes for 5 million packet. If you have a large position, like let's say over 5 million, or even over at this point 1.25 million, which is not a lot, relatively speaking, then having a packet domain makes a lot of sense, because there's no limit to how many yield credits you could stake to a packet domain. And so, especially for people who have a large position and want it to continue to yield, buying a packet domain would probably make a lot of sense, following the demo that Caleb just did. And we'll get some additional documentation about this workflow up onto the docs.packet.cache, so that people can follow along like a tutorial and set up their stakes. But yeah, you'll want to do that before the end of this month, and make sure that you're ready to continue yielding. And I think what will happen for some people who don't get themselves ready is the people that do are going to see a nice boost in yields when their stakes stop earning, because you're not running infrastructure. So get ahead of it. It's been nice to see in the chats people jumping in and kind of going through the workflow. It's new, right? So this is invented tech, and it has a nice UI and all, but there's still you have to know the steps, and there's going to be some details that might be particular to your device or to where your units are being hosted, and just be good to do the troubleshooting starting now. Caleb, what are some of the things that you've been chatting with people about that you've seen maybe a couple challenges that people have been having setting up these CJDNS nodes or setting up infrastructure?
Well, with CJDNS nodes, I think the biggest challenge is that anybody that's running it behind a NAT, which means if you're running it at home, for instance, then that's a big challenge, because you need to make sure you're forwarding back the port correctly, and you might need to manually fix the IP address. Generally speaking, your life will be easier if you're running either at a data center or with a cache, rather than trying to run one of these things in your house, unless you know what you're doing. Or I know with Rowdy, Rowdy's going to be supporting people that have a Mini, because the Mini has a CJDNS node. So there'll be some support there. But generally speaking, if you're just wanting to set up a CJDNS node, the easiest thing that you're going to do is just buy a $5 VPS or whatever.
Right. So yeah, for people who don't, or let's just say for people who want to set up a CJDNS node, the easiest way, do you want to do the demo on the CJDNS one as well? Because the demo you just did was for domains.
Yeah. I don't have it. I'm not really ready to set it up right now.
Okay. All right, no worries.
I don't have a machine that I can run one on, but
do you want to talk through it?
There's a video. I put a video on Twitter like last week or the week before, of doing it actually. I cut the video with iMovie, and basically it's the same process as creating the domain. You just register it on the dashboard, and then once the dashboard acknowledges that it's there and not working correctly, then you go down and you find your peer ID and you copy that. It's PUB underscore PKT underscore and then a number, and you copy that number. And then when you go set up your CJDNS node, you go to there's also a link to the docs. You can actually click the link, and the docs has been updated for the CJDNS node. So it's actually you just have to follow the instructions, and just follow those instructions on a modern Linux installation on any Debian and Ubuntu, and it should be pretty fine. Always check your firewall, make sure you're not blocking the traffic, and if you've got weird routing, then you have to deal with the weird routing. Incoming traffic's necessary. People should be aware of. I'm actually gonna reply to the tweet here with this public peer tester, because this thing's really, really useful for just figuring out what's going on, because it tells you, once your node comes online, not tested yet, and then it goes to like, it's been tested, but it's not working. Whereas the dashboard just tells you, it doesn't tell you as much information right now. But this little tester, this is really, really useful. So running CGDNS nodes, this tester is very useful. And then nothing happens immediately. So you have to make sure that you start it up, give it 5 minutes from the time you started it up. And then after 5 minutes, you should see your node on the list, with your peer ID. If you don't see it at all, then that's something wrong after 5 minutes. And then from 5 minutes, you go to, you got to wait about maybe 20 minutes for it to actually come around and test it. But it's just going to say it's there, but not yet tested. Another 5 minutes, maybe another 10 minutes. It depends. And then from untested to connection failed, if it's not able to make a connection, okay if it is. And if it's connection failed, then you just get another free test every 20 minutes.
Got it. Yeah, it's really exciting to see that kind of all coming together. I wanted to see if I can share this screen right here. Let me see if I can present this. Let me see here. Share screen. Yeah, here we go. So this is something that somebody has created in the chat. Don't know exactly who this individual is. Ravoti is the screen name in the Packet Network, but Ravoti, thank you for your service. We always say it's not what Packet can do for you, but what you can do for PKT. And here we go with somebody who took the initiative to build out a representation of where all the nodes are in the world. And this is really valuable because there's a reward, or a bonus, I should say, for locations that don't have nodes in them. So you can kind of look at this map and see that we need to get some representation in China. Caleb, what are your thoughts on this map right here?
It's great. It's beautiful. Thank you so much to Ravoti for pulling this thing out. And we got 51 public peers. That's fantastic. From public peers not even existing, a month ago, to 51 of them already up. So that's great uptake. Something to keep in mind is that the bonus is based on network space, not necessarily. So if you so it's number one, you can only run one node, one IP address. So that's a rule. And if you run more than one, you just end up splitting the yields. And that's no fun. Number two rule is that you get a bonus if your node is in an IP address block that is doesn't have many other nodes. So IP address blocks are really kind of like area codes, like phone number area codes, but they're used in internet routing. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's all in the same country, but it tends to be. It's always all the same internet service provider or hosting provider. But then the third thing that you get a bonus for is same unique hosting provider, unique ISP, and that's based on the ISPs have an autonomous system number, AS number, and sometimes you can have the same ISP, like same brand name, but it has a different AS number for different IP addresses that they own, and then you just get a free credit. But the key point here is that you're probably, you'll get, if you choose OVH nodes in France and Germany and the US and Canada and Singapore, for instance, you'll probably get the bonus for different IP address blocks, but you're not going to get the bonus for different ISPs because it's all OVH.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So yeah, so if you zoom in on these right here, what was happening here when you're clicking on these things? These are just the node IDs.
I guess so. Yeah, pure ID. Yep, looks like it.
Yeah, and this is totally cool. I'm
It
seeing
would be
that there's
cool
gonna
to
be some
have
more.
like the part of the IP address in the country, because
Right.
oh right, that's that's there. That's easy to render.
What's the web URL for CJDNS the .li? What's that URL?
Oh, the route server.
Yeah.
Route server, one word, .cjd.li.
Route server.
Yeah, see what the route server's up to these days.
Yeah, let's check it out. So let's walk us through this. What are we looking at here?
Well, that's a logical map of the network. So that's based on who's connected to whom. I think if you look in the upper right on where your cursor is,
Yeah.
I think it's the upper right. It depends on what people. Yeah, the upper right. That's going to be rowdy because you see a couple of nodes, and then you have a kind of a flower branching off from there.
Mm-hmm.
All the way on the left, if I had to take a guess, I would say that those are the public peers, and I think the one in the center there is the one that's being currently set as the bootstrap. No, the center of that little flower on the right.
Oh, this one.
Left, right, yeah, that one. I think that's going to be well. If you click on it, I'll see the address. 1F52. I think that's yeah, I don't know. I think that one is the bootstrap node that's set up for all the new CJDNS connects using a Cedar, and the Cedar only has one node, so that would be that one node. Which the Cedar, which is used, it's a DNS based thing for making CJDNS nodes connect to each other. Very soon, that Cedar is going to be giving out randomly chosen nodes from the list of the ones that are staking and yielding. So all the nodes are going to all kind of connect to each other that way. But right now, the Cedar is just fixed as giving out this one node over and over again. So I think that's the core of that. And then all these other things you're seeing, these are just older nodes run by different people in the community that have been around for a long time, and they're all just connected to each other in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, and then so what are these URLs right here? Like h.core.vertical.
I don't know who Ventricle is. I know cjdns.ca is IRCer. He's one of the oldest community members. Then there's just a lot of nodes that are just run by people that I don't keep track of.
Yeah. So as I guess my question, the reason I wanted to bring this up, and maybe just walk us through with the route servers, because that's going to be a piece of infrastructure that other people can run. But before you do that, as more people are running infrastructure and then eventually beginning to use the network and setting up websites at the network, presumably you're going to see this map expand out, right? Where you're going to see more connectivity and more use of this network, the actual physical utility of the network itself.
Yeah, well, I mean that whole thing over there on the left just wasn't there until, oh, you know what? Look, the one right there, that's the bootstrap node. Okay, see that one all the way on the left, and it's got like 4 or 5 lines pointing to it. Tiny node. No, all the way to the left, all the way at the edge. Nope, further.
Am I going the right way? Left?
Oh, no, up, back up to that constellation there, where you were.
Okay.
Further to the left, further to the edge of the screen.
Oh, up here.
Right, that one. Yep, that's the tester.
Oh, got it.
That's the one that connects and checks and makes sure that your node's working.
Got
It's
it.
connected to like 4 or 5 nodes right now because it's processing 4 or 5 nodes right now.
I see. I love these I love this. You can just like see the topography of the mesh network. It's obviously a really cool viewpoint. But
Yeah,
we've
and
been
if
looking
you're
at
good
this
at
now.
guessing, you can figure out what it's doing.
Right. So there's 355 nodes, 698 links. And yeah, you can just see it's a very nascent network. But the opportunity here is by economically incentivizing people to run infrastructure. And then the next phase is like, okay, cool, we ran infrastructure. Now what? Obviously, you're earning. But where the rubber meets the road is people actually building websites in the network, actually building out these websites that connect to these public peers. And so, over the coming year, we should see, dozens to hundreds of different URLs, populating throughout the route server. So here, so talk us through what the route server is, Caleb, because this is something that actually Alex Lightman, took the first shot at. It was a network steward proposal, almost 4 years ago, and then I know you jumped in and did the final tune up on it, and then it's going to be a piece of infrastructure that people will be able to run in the ecosystem that will pay out the highest yields once this goes live. So yeah, talk us through that. Just give us the whole
Well,
world on this.
not the highest. It actually pay out the lowest, but because there's going to be so few of them, there's going
Right.
to be very little competition for that piece of pie. So yeah, in the end, it is the highest. It's the highest, but it's the lowest, but it's the highest.
Right. So you'll be one of a handful rather than one of 1,000. So whereas to your point, it's getting 10% of the network reward for the
5.
route server,
5.
but
Only 5.
five,
Only
excuse
5.
me, 5% of the network reward going to the people who run route servers, but there might only be a handful of them. So it will end up being a large yield, relatively speaking, to the total rewards paid out per day.
So what the route server does, I mean, intuitively, if you're the little node over on the left there, and you want to talk to that little node over on the far right, then you need to some way through the network to get from point A to point B. And the way CJDNS works is the individual, when you send a message in CJDNS, you don't give the identity of who you want it to go to. You give the path. You say, I need it to take a right at this point, at this junction, and then take a left, and then go to interface 3, and then and all the nodes along that path just blindly follow the instruction they're given. So somebody needs to be able to put that path together to create that instruction, and that's the role of the route server. It gives those instructions on demand to every node that checks in with it, which is all of the nodes in the network. They're all checking in with the route server and giving their link quality updates and telling the route server what they're and asking the route server for paths to things. You could think of it like kind of like a domain name DNS server, but instead of resolving a name to an IP address, it resolves an IP address to a path. In the future,
it reminds me of the old phone operators where it's
Yep.
like you get a phone call and then you plug in the
wires.
wires.
Yep. In the future, it's going to resolve actually names to paths. Name to IP to path, because that's where the names of packet come in. So you take a name, you look up the name, and it just gives you the path directly. So you go from name to path, and then if the path changes because the network is shifting or whatever, it just push forwards a message to you telling you the new path. That's all. So running a route server is kind of the big boy part of this, where you're really just taking charge of a certain portion of the network and saying all of this stuff, this is all really going to be operated by me. This is mine. If it has a network outage, it's my problem to solve. And I want to run it as though I were kind of an ISP. So this is back to the cloud ISP concept. I want to be like a cloud ISP, and I'm going to take charge of this portion of the network, and all the routing inside of here is going to be managed entirely by my route server. So that's what a route server means in this context.
Got it. Yeah, and I really it's so funny. I just wish that we had done this out of the gate, because what ultimately happened is, if we rewind time back to 2020, a lot of people saw that the big money was from running a pool. And so a lot of people tried running pools and failed because of the how complicated it is to run a pool, how expensive it is, how much infrastructure you have to run all this. And ended up becoming very centralized because there was just no way for people to get in, and kind of decentralize that effort. Um, with route servers, it's also complicated but doable. And what you end up getting is kind of that same authority that a pool has, where you get to have some determination around a area of the ecosystem, and then you get remunerated for taking those actions. And so I always in my mind wanted pool operators to become network operators, because then you're actually monitoring and helping serve up a jurisdiction within the network. And ultimately the result is this decentralized mesh network where people are taking ownership of it's basically what we talked about, people becoming, cloud ISPs. That was in the original white paper. But the economic incentive was never tied to doing this, and so nobody did it. Nobody did it. I think our original vision was that if you could get paid from proof of work, that you would also, kind of out of the kindness of your heart, contribute to the roadmap and running infrastructure on with regards to CJDNS, the packet network. And just nobody did it, right? So now that the economic incentive is there, and we're just a month into this, less than a month. What are we, Caleb? We're like two weeks into this with infrastructure, and we're already seeing people taking the initiative to create infrastructure that's really valuable to the network, and also creating visual representations of the network. And so that's just such a rewarding indicator that this is heading in the right direction. Obviously, we still need to do more to get more people to understand what's here. And obviously, this is a very technical conversation, and networking's not sexy, but ultimately, the fabric. We're gonna make it. Packet's gonna make it sexy. But obviously, the exciting part about the internet is what people do with it. The apps that are built, the websites that are built, the businesses that are built, and how the network is used. But ultimately, the unsexy part is making sure that there is a network, that the functionality is there. And so even people who are relatively non-technical can still participate in. And that's why we've tried to make it as easy as possible, and we'll continue to improve that process for people to run infrastructure. And yeah, it's a little bit of a brain buster. Instructions aren't great yet, but we definitely want to see this this get better and better. And if you were to fast forward like 1 year from today, Caleb, and you were just like, it would be so cool if, what would be that? It would be so cool if, like, fast forwarding a year from today.
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, so I think that there's like a phase one, or a minimum viable usage of this, which is I really want to see people. I mean, you look at that CGDNS network, and that there's people running nodes there, not because of the kindness of their heart or because they think it's cool tech, but because like they have a use case for it. It solves a problem for them, that they're able to, they throw a node on their work machine or whatever, or their server, and then they're able to reach it from their home machine. Or in my case, I've got all these computers at my house. I can't reach any of them from the internet, but I use CGDNS to tunnel back into my house to reach all these computers in order to just dial in. And if we can just solve one problem for people, that everybody, that one subpopulation can really just jump on that problem and have it solved for them, then that would be the first thing that would make me happy. I think the second thing, and to get back to more concrete, like bigger visions for a year from now. I would like to have like a real functioning network that competes with like the Onion router or I2P, and that people are running websites in it, and it's like another dark net, but with its own ethos, with its own culture. You know, another dark net with its own culture. I think that would be a big win. And then number three win would be I think that people should be able to own their own IP addresses, because right now, like, you don't own any IP address. You rent an IP address from your internet service provider, and you can only own IP addresses if you're like a sophisticated investor type that buys a big block of them for a lot of money, and then takes that block, and then you have to do all these this paperwork in order to do anything with them. But to lower that barrier so that an individual could just own their own like IP address outright, sovereign, and be able to take that to whatever their VPN exit is, and then just say, yeah, this is my IP address, so this should go to me. I think that would be another really, really useful and cool thing. You know, at the end of the day, the point is to be useful to as many people as possible, and in as much to be as useful as we possibly can.
Yeah, it's also interesting because a lot of this type of networking has a stigma to it as being like, kind of a dark corner of the internet, where people can do things that are censorship resistant, which implies that people are potentially doing, illegal stuff or, what have you. But there's another side of that, which is, and this is what really fascinates me and why I got so deeply involved in this, which is the geo fencing that is kind of inherent. It's part of the reason why we've seen companies like Meta and Google become the behemoths that they are, is because they regionalize the world, and and even companies like Netflix and media companies that regionalize distribution. And so what's happened is, well, we live in a globalized world. We've geofenced a lot of things, and some of that's jurisdictional based on the laws of different places, right? So at one point, it's actually every time I watch sports, I just am blown away to watch sports gambling commercials. Because if you rewind, I think it was even less than 10 years ago, but let's just go a little further back, 15 years. It was illegal to do sports gambling. Like, sports gambling was so illegal. The feds were hunting down people running any gambling sites. People were leaving the United States with their money. It was like worse than drug dealing. Like, they wanted to put those people in jail. And now you have, brands like DraftKings making billions and billions and billions of dollars and running ads and sponsoring NFL teams, And so you've seen that the world can change, right? So something that was illegal, it was the dark corner of the internet where you were doing gambling, is now the most mainstream brands in the world. And that shows that the internet is a place where things blossom, where new ideas are hatched and discovered, and businesses can grow. And I think that a lot of regulation, a lot of regionalization and geofencing, and also big corporate interests, that control a lot of these industries, prevent innovation. And so the opportunity with Packet Network is for people, some of these misfits, if you will, hopefully they're not doing some of the most horrific things that, we do know that get done on the internet here. But ideally, it becomes an ecosystem of innovation. And for me personally, as I mentioned, I have a huge interest in the media and entertainment space. And one thing that's happened in media and entertainment is that distribution and access to audience is now centralized around a couple major companies, maybe two or three handfuls. worth of huge corporations, and they're companies that, the Google owns YouTube, Apple owns iTunes, Netflix that has, geofencing on a territory by territory basis. Some people have to, use a VPN, and actually Netflix is really good at identifying that you're using a VPN and preventing you from accessing regional content. So it's a very tricky thing. In the same way that sports gambling is illegal in certain states in America, and they do a lot of work to try and prevent regionally, someone in California, for instance, gambling. You're not allowed to place bets in the state of California on certain platforms. So with the Packet Network, it essentially removes the geofence. Now, when you do that, we have people who are concerned about that. Even within their business, they're just like, oh, well, I don't want to break the law or whatever. And that's obviously very important to understand what those laws are, and not be breaking the law based on where you live. But there's this other side of the story, which is like, what if I'm a content creator and I make a movie and I want my movie, and it ain't gonna get bought by Apple. They're not gonna give me $2 million for my movie I spent $2 million making. So what do I do? And if I could set up a viewer in the CJDNS network, in Packet Network, and I can market that website, and people can go and access that website anywhere in the world without geofencing. That's incredibly powerful, because now you basically have your own vehicle for distribution. And so I'm really passionate about this particular use case. And Josh has been kind of leading the charge on Packet Hub. Actually, I should show it right now. What's the URL for Packet Hub, Josh?
hub.pkt.cache.
We're like, oh, we're not going to make this public. Oh, here we go. Now it's public. So this is just like the first shot at it, just to kind of create a demo on what this is. But the big idea is that, it becomes a kind of like an Apple TV or Roku like ecosystem. You're running this in the Packet Network, and then you can click, and these links, right, Josh?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's like, if I click, ESPN, bang, I'm just, off to heading over to the ESPN, page. And if I, every single link right here would take me to the site that I'm clicking on, right? So if I click ESPN, then boom, I'm on the ESPN site. And so the idea here is that this will enable people to add their own tile for their own media platform, and we'll have a lot of different media platforms coming in, being domiciled within this Packet Hub. So this is just one use case of the network that we're really excited about.
Cool.
You want to talk through it, Josh? Go for it.
Well, what's been cool actually out here at Sigma in Malta is talking to these casinos, because a lot of casinos, only have licenses in certain countries, and they have to like geofence, and so by building those casinos inside the Packet network, it's a global network, and people can access it from all over the world. And so that's been really interesting to these different casinos to get audience and to get traffic, and even if it's just a link that links them back to their site, but being part of this ecosystem. So that's been really cool. And I met with a dozen different casinos and online gaming and slot machines and all this stuff. And so I think that we're gonna be able to create that pretty soon. I want to actually create a design in here where you can switch between like content and gaming, and put all that stuff in there. So that's kind of been this new conversation that I've had out here with a bunch of people, and there was a lot of positive reactions to it. So that was exciting to talk to people about it. And I think that that's, like you said, networking isn't sexy unless you're Caleb. But the user facing side of it can be sexy, and it should be useful and exciting. But on the other side, it is pretty sexy that I just, while you guys were talking, I went and staked my my domain, and that was like a real easy, joyous experience to do. So
Did you manage to
bravo.
update the name servers?
I did. It says it'll take 48. It could take 48 hours for it to populate. So
Yeah, it's more like an hour usually.
sure, yeah, I'll keep refreshing it and see if it works. But yeah, it was easy, frictionless. So bravo to make tech that works. Some people did say that they got an error. I got that too the first time, but I think it's just congestion that's happening because the markets are absolutely mooning. But yeah, when I just refreshed it and tried again, it worked perfectly. So
Yeah, I've been getting sporadic errors. I'm pretty confident it's the base chain just getting overloaded. So if something gives you that big red error, just try again.
yeah,
Yeah, there's
but yeah,
definitely
nice
this.
work.
Go for it, Josh.
Oh, I was
Sorry
just
to
saying,
interrupt.
nice work. You built something, you shipped it on time. High five.
Yeah, and look, people are going to go build other stuff. Like Packet Hub is, something that I'm passionate about. Josh is passionate about using the Packet network for. Caleb doesn't really give a shit about it too much, but that's all good. We don't care. The idea is like this is a network that anyone can do anything on, right? So if you're an entrepreneur and you think that there's value of having your own sovereign place on the internet that is accessible from anywhere in the world for anybody who connects, like it's a pretty powerful concept, because if you put content onto the internet, let's say you're in Germany and I search for that, unless I know the exact URL, it's not going to show up on Google, right? Because the way Google, focuses on local, they realize that search needs to be local, and so they try and guess what vendor or what business you're looking for, and we know that SEO and SEM practices are what dictates what the consumer sees, and the people who spend the money optimizing their websites to be, on the first page or two of Google are going to be the businesses that get the most traffic. And, if you're not savvy and spending all the money to do that, then you're non-existent for the most part to different places in the world. So there's a what also gets me really exciting, and I've always thought of it this way with regards to Packet Network, is it's like, if you could go back to like the late 90s before the internet really became what it is today, and from an entrepreneurial standpoint could participate in that, would you take interest in it, knowing how far it came over the last 20 years, 25 years? And if the answer is yes, then you should look at the Packet Network as this like blank canvas, web 3.0 ish, web 3.5 of like, hey, here's a sovereign, uh, censorship resistant, globally accessible place on the internet where you can build websites. I mean, this website could just be as easily built, in the regular internet, but there's value in enabling this type of content to be globally accessible and getting more people into the Packet network. These types of ecosystems and platforms should become, more readily available. So it'll take a lot of marketing for this to get into the, become more ubiquitous, to get into the more general public mindset. But you got to start somewhere.
I think there's a
And
good point in what you just said, which is if you're creating a startup website, then it's always hard to get traction. But if you make it available inside of the Packet network, then you can kind of guarantee that there's at least a few people that are going to try out your website, and that sometimes that few people that are going to try it out is the difference between getting the traction and not getting the traction. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's not going to be as big as the amount of people you can bring in with Google, but the people that you could bring in with Google, they're already going to somewhere else where they do the best SEO, the best advertising. So I think there's a good argument for using it kind of as like a small pond to be a big fish in.
Sure.
Yeah,
And
that
I
was
mean,
one of
and
the
ultimately the pond's going to grow, right? We had to start somewhere. I mean, Apple computers had to start in a garage, and all these big projects had to start somewhere. So it's like, yeah, this is still a burgeoning project. I think that part of what's limited Packet over the years is like, and everyone said it, I've been listening to the chats for years and years and years. There's like utility, utility, utility. When can we, do something? It's like, okay, well, utility's here. You have to buy Packet now to stake Packet, and you have to run infrastructure to earn yields. Bang, utility. That's your first version of utility. The second version of utility is, what can I do with the Packet that I'm earning? Yeah, you can just restake it and earn more Packet and compound your yields. Not a bad idea. You can sell it and go pay for your life, go buy groceries with the money. And I've seen plenty of people, take liquidity. I mean, even 1 year ago, if you sold $5,000 worth of Packet, you would have cratered the entire price of the market. Now you can sell $5,000 worth of Packet, and no big deal. You can do that all day long. And so that's another big feather in the cap for this transition on stake to earn. But like, where the utility comes in is like, how are we using this network, and then what kind of benefit exists for people to pay in Packet? And that's really where I get excited. And we haven't even talked about it on this call, and um, probably not going to talk about it on this call, but I'll just mention in passing that as these platforms start emerging on the network, there's an efficiency of using cryptocurrency, using Packet as a currency within the network, because it's EVM, because it's Web3, because it's low fees, because there's no payment processor or payment gateway intermediary taking a middleman cut, or even worse, putting it in, where you have to have your funds on hold for 6 months or 3 months or 90 days, like with PayPal. We ran several businesses where PayPal took a treasury reserve and said, hey, we'll give you the money in 30 days, 60 days. We have a payment processor that pays us on a trailing 6 months, where they hold the money for 6 months to wait for chargeback. So it's like, you're making money as a business using a payment processor, and you just don't get paid for 6 months. It's like, how are you supposed to run your business? Well, you run your business in the Packet network, and you use cryptocurrency for payment. It has a fiat off ramp, which is easy to use through Coinbase. You're not paying any fees. Not even the kind of crazy gas fees that exist on the Ethereum chain. So those things, I think that's where the rubber meets the road. That was what I think really limited Packet as an original layer one, is there was no one building like just the basics, like just the basic stuff for making it easy to transact. And and that's just like amazing wallets. They can't be good, they got to be amazing. And it has to be all the other infrastructure components, which is why we went to Base, because they have hundreds of millions of dollars worth of infrastructure that's just pre-built, so you can just use it as a template. And now we get to focus our development efforts on building actual things that people can use, do, and experience within the network. And that's where we're at today. I look at, just like Caleb, over the last 60 days, what's been built in this last 60 days feels like it's more than was built in the last 3 years.
yeah.
I think that's close to accurate. I mean, at least, no, you know what? It was a lot of stuff was built over the last 3 years. A lot of it was fixing bugs with esoteric wallet technology, or with like Explorer. I mean, the Electorium thing, that was a pretty significant thing that was built. It
Right.
never really got merged into the old project, but now it's in the new project. So voila.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
The
things
route
were already
server too was
built.
also built.
Yeah, the
Right,
route
these things were
server, the
built,
route
but it was
server's
like,
been there since 2021, chugging along. No, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was built. I think that what's happened here is the rubber's really started to hit the road. especially with the incentive, the mandate, the fact that this incentivization is going to be used to deliver a value. So, I mean, I think the next product out the door is going to be ability to register a domain. Not a domain like the domains you're staking, but if I register packet.wiki with Namecheap, and then I stake it, and then you go and register josh.pkt, then josh.pkt.wiki will go to your site, and josh.pkt.any staked PKT domain will go to your site. All of them will go to your site. So and we're the first ones to do that. We're the first ones to make blockchain domains that actually work on the outside internet, and just by crowdsourcing a whole bunch of top level domains for it. So yeah, I think that's like the next big product to drop, and then the next product after that is going to be, well, we had Nano VPN, and some people used it. We're going to brush that up. We're going to make that really nice.
Mhm.
And that's going to be your entry point into the network for when you're using an Android. And then we're going to make that so it works on, I think Mac desktop will be the next one after that, so that you can just install CJDNS app, with a little UI, and you click, and then you can access the network on your Mac. I think that's going to be the next frontier. Q1 of 2025, I would expect to see that. And at that point, you have a CJDNS node on your Mac. It's going to connect to all those nodes that are staking, all the staking CJDNS nodes. And then that's going to give you access to the network. Just, double click and you've got it.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah,
Josh, do you want to talk quickly? I know we're getting kind of long here, so we should wrap it up shortly. But do you want to talk about the bounty that you were putting into the chat?
What about creating videos?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Ezekiel had stepped up and created an AI video, which is rad. He actually did a great job doing it for Linux for CJDNS. But yeah, throwing out 100,000 PKT to someone that wants to create like a step-by-step tutorial video on which is like a screen recording on how to set up a CJDNS node. We already did Linux, so we'd like it to be for Windows and one for Mac. So there's 300,000 PKT, 200,000 left if someone wants to take on Mac or take on Windows and create that. Yeah, we already have. It looks like Akash created a video for how to do it on Akash, which is pretty rad as well. We're gonna go turn that thing into an AI video, but they went and created a screen recording of that. And I think Hyvelo is almost done as well with their whole integration. And then I actually just met with a supplier, a cloud supplier out here in Malta. Well, they're all over the world. They're a big one, but I just met them at the conference, and they're down to go set up, a template, make it real easy. They were like, "Well, can we just run the infrastructure ourselves?" And I'm like, "Yeah, definitely." So they're all fired up to just start, staking their infrastructure into the network, making money off of that. So those are kind of in place right now, which is exciting. The other cool thing, just a little side thing, when I was talking to these people, these casino people, they all like run their whole businesses off of affiliates, and they have a huge affiliate network where they're, when people lose money, that pays out the affiliates, and they get, because that's when the casino gets paid, is when people lose. But I was thinking it could be a cool feature if we set up the in Packet Hub, set it up so that we take those affiliate fees and then we dump stake them into the LP. And so all the affiliate money just gets dumped into the LP and just build that up off of affiliate money. Could be a cool idea.
Yeah, it's a really good idea. Well, it'll be interesting again, like you said, to see an expansion in this from the Packet Hub standpoint. I really have this vision in my mind that Packet Hub can be broken up into categories, kind of like when you go to YouTube and YouTube breaks up, everything happening on YouTube in very different categories, and it will say it's not necessarily, it has categories, right? And so we could imagine that there's a way to create a category, and then within the category, you could have all the different types of, similar, businesses or offerings that can be categorized in there, so people can, really start to discover the network. And I think those are the type of it's not like a complicated thing, but Caleb's mentioned it, like doing a bit of a directory. I think that's probably like the first place, is getting like an actual wiki. It would be like the way that Netscape used to work. Most people won't even remember this, but like the early days, like the web was just like a wiki. It was like just a list of all the websites. It didn't even have like traditional search. You just like go to a website and it would show you like a list of URLs of other web pages that you could just go to on the internet. And obviously search has become so dynamic and most people can't remember back that far anyways. But we should probably start there, because there's not a lot of stuff in the network yet. But soon you could imagine that there's like actual search, and that Packet Hub is categorized a lot along the lines of a lot of different types of categories of, millions and billions of people out in the world that have unique, businesses and are looking for specific audience and users to come participate. And you could imagine that the hub would have like a kind of like a side menu that would be listing all those various different categories. If you clicked media, you might get, a view of this particular viewpoint. But if you clicked, sports, maybe there's a different one, and you can imagine that it can be broken up like that. So I don't know exactly how that would work for, casino games and stuff like that, but you can imagine that there could be a category for that.
Well, there's this submit channel feature, and so
Right.
people can submit their channel. This is still work in progress. We weren't ready to leak this thing to the world, but this will have the ability for people to upload their channel to it and just start building it out, and getting just building out an ecosystem. I think that's really what my whole kind of pitch has been, is around just like being part of an ecosystem. And I think that that's what makes Packet really special, is that we're creating an ecosystem of infrastructure providers, and we're creating an ecosystem of platforms that can live on top of this infrastructure. And so it's made it really easy to partner, because and it's funny because everyone's just like, well, what's the catch? Like, how do you make money? We're like, well, we're built the blockchain, and the blockchain, pays out people, and we're invested in the coin and the, the value of that. But like, everyone's like, well, why would you just let me put my site on your site and direct it? Like, you taking some of my revenue, or what's the catch, and I think that there is no catch. It's like, we're creating this thing and giving it to the people, giving the power back to the people. It's like, you own it as much as I own it, and creating kind of on-ramps where people can participate in this ecosystem. So that's been cool. And just, it's nice to just be able to partner so easily. And I think there's kind of two phases of utility. It's like utility of the network itself and utility of Packet itself. And those are, not mutually exclusive to each other. So they, you can make things that just use the network. Like, it's chain agnostic. It doesn't necessarily need to be a Packet project to use this network and use this infrastructure. And then, once it's in this ecosystem, and as we get more people using it, then it makes a lot of sense to integrate payments into that stuff and be able to onboard Packet. And I met some Web3 casinos out in at the conference as well, and talk about integrating Packet payments into the gambling, which could be cool to let people just be able to gamble with Packet. And so anyways, there's tons of opportunity, and this is kind of just the beginning. And yeah, it's exciting. Also, my domain is now has an okay under status, 99%. So we're in the game. Everything worked out perfectly.
All right, that's awesome. So the reason why people might want to buy, and then stake domains is that you've got no limit on how much yield credits you can put on a domain.
Right.
They yield a little bit less than CGDNS nodes, but there's only about like 500 of them that you can ever possibly have. It's all the top level domains. You saw the list there when you select. That's it. And once all those are taken, that's all it can ever exist. So you want to make sure that if you want the domain, you should get it before they're all gone, except the ones that are $2,000, and then you could stake that in, and you can just put as many yield credits on it as you want, and you're not going to be competing with that many other people because there's just so few domains. So you're going to get a big piece of the domain pie.
I mean,
That's
even
another
if
point.
even if
Yeah,
it is,
mention that quickly about yields on domains.
hold on, just real quick. Even if you do spend $2,000, if you think about it, you're gonna have to run nodes for years, and you're paying monthly for a server and instance. So like, even if you did drop 2Gs on a domain, it's still worth it, because you got to think about the cost that it takes to run infrastructure over time. And if you have a large treasury, how many nodes you have to run over that period of time. So it still even makes sense even with those high domain costs.
Yeah. What was the thing you were asking about, Jesse?
Yeah, I was just saying, and maybe we just end here, but just breaking down the yields, right? So you got a certain amount going to CJDNS nodes, certain amount going to domain, certain amount going. We talked about route servers briefs. There's name servers.
If I remember correctly, it was CJDNS nodes were going to be like 45, VPNs would be 30, domains would be like 20, name servers 15, and route servers 5. That might not even add up to 100, but that gives you the idea of how the breakdown flows. As they get more elite, the percentage gets smaller, but you're taking a bigger piece of a smaller pie, so you end up with more.
Got it. Yeah,
you gotta have a domain in order to run a name server. So if in order to have a name server, you gotta have at least one domain. So there's restrictions. They don't have a route server, you gotta have a name server. So you need to have a domain, to have a route server, to have a name server. To have a route server. So if you want to be big in the project, then you kind of need to be one of the domain people.
Yeah. That's a great point, which is that there's clearly a benefit if you end up coming here and want to read the dictionary, then head over to docs.pkt.cache, and there's a lot of writing here. I actually need to go through and just make sure this is completely updated, because there's a lot of new stuff that just launched, and it could be talking in, like it says coming in October 30th, but now that date passed. So yeah, I just need to do a quick little polish on this text. But to your point, so CJDNS nodes earn 40% of all the yields. Presumably this will be one of the easier things that people run, and as a result, there could be thousands of CJDNS nodes, and so that would mean that there would be a good amount of dilution, but it's still, in the beginning, I'd actually CJDNS nodes are going to actually earn really, really nicely. So highly recommend people get into that. VPN exits are going to be the next piece of this story that we haven't fully built yet, but that'll be 30% of the yields will go to VPN exits. And so something to, keep your eye on. That'll be one of the next things, right, Caleb?
So, okay, so the 30%, it's not going to work exactly that way. What's going to happen is you have a CGDNS node, and then you enable VPN exit, and you just magically are allowed to assign more yield credits. So for VPN exit, you can assign 5K worth of yield credits. For a CGDNS node, you can assign 5K worth of yield credits. If you run one that does both, then you can have 10K worth of yield credits. So VPN exit and CGDNS node will be merged, but the amount of the yield credit limit will be based on whether it's doing one or the other or both. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. But what I was also saying is that this isn't live yet. The
Right.
VPN exit activation isn't quite there yet.
Right. But what was it? 40 for CGDNS and 30 for VPN?
Correct.
Okay, so then it's going to be 70 for CGDNS plus VPN. And it's just going to be a slush fund of 70. And then, but the people with VPNs will be able to assign twice as much yield credit per unit.
Got it. So then domains, this is 15%. We'll go to the holders of packet domains. This is what we just talked about today.
Which is rich because there's only going to be 150, 200 of them. It's even possible to register.
So let me just ask another quick question. So since everyone's been getting yields based on 100%, now it's going to be all, subdivided out. And so you're going to see your yields change based on the actions that you take,
Yeah. So it used to be that like you get X amount of yield credits, the yield that then X divided by the total number of yield credits in existence. That's your yield. That's it. Now it's going to be you get X amount of yield credits, you go assign them to infrastructure, and then you take a varying piece of different pies instead of just taking a varying piece of one pie.
Right. So here's another quick question. So if I'm running a CJDNS node, can I also run a domain and get, that 85, participate in 85% of the yields now with the same yield credits, or how would that end up working?
No, you got to assign different yield credits to your CGDNS node, different yield credits to your domain. But you can run both of them.
What would you recommend? So you would max out on the CJDNS node based at 5,000, and then you would assign. Would you recommend splitting, like maxing out a CJDNS node and then also putting the balance on a domain? Is that basically how you would go about it?
That seems like a good idea. We're gonna see. I mean, we're gonna have those little numbers on there that where it says coming soon. It's gonna say the amount of yield per million credits on different types of asset, different types of nodes, and so that's where you're going to be able to see like, oh, yeah, the domains are doing really good. I'm going to move everything over to the domains, or CGDNS nodes are doing good, so I'm going to move everything over there.
And that'll be live. You can move yield credits. You're not locked in, even though your stake's locked in. You can reassign yield credits kind of in a fluid manner.
Yep. Anytime you want.
That's really cool. So yeah, the community is going to let us know, right? You kind of create these rails, and then people are going to start, mixing around with it and figuring out what works. And then you'll see here. So the next two, there's VPN that's going to come next. Mm-hmm. And then you want to just touch on we talked about route servers right here.
Right. Well, name servers are really a really core part of the project because they're going to do two things. One is they're going to resolve these names. So when somebody goes to josh.pkt.wiki, what's the actual computer that's giving the answer? That's a name server. It's one of the name servers. And the other thing that name servers are going to do is going to introduce CGDNS nodes to other CGDNS nodes so that they connect together and build networks. And right now we've only got one node that's just introducing to one CGDNS. But once the name server is complete, then there's going to be lots of these all around the world, and they're all going to introduce CGDNS nodes to each other as well as resolve names.
Got it. That's huge. So a lot of work to do, but a lot of work's been done, and yeah, it's time to jump in and start messing around with it. There's going to be a big sea change that's going to happen come, let's say, December 1st, where people are going to go, wait a minute, my yield stopped. what happened? And it's gonna, you're gonna have to jump in and spend a couple hours figuring it out. So it's good to jump in now and start poking around and getting things set up, and it will be a seamless transition between, the way things have been going today and right after it. I'm willing to bet that come December 1st, the people who took action are going to see a nice spike in
Oh, yeah.
their yields
Oh, yeah.
because a lot of people who are sleeping are going to stop yielding.
Yep. It's going to be a big spike, I think.
Yeah, it's going to remind me of that spike that happened on the first week of when the network launched.
Yep.
And like one of our friends jumped into the LP, and he jumped in like literally a week before me. I was so busy that first week I didn't even like stake anything, and he made like 2.5 million packet in like the first like 7 days.
Yep.
Wait, what? What happened? So yeah, that's what happens when you're sleeping. And I highly recommend you wake up. It's a good time to wake up.
Yep.
Heading into the holidays,
Heading into
you're
the
not
bull
too
run.
busy, and get it done. What, Josh?
And heading into the bull run.
And let's just talk about the bull run, baby. What are we doing? Let's go.
Yeah.
So, Caleb, what are your thoughts as a guy who's been around in pre $10,000 Bitcoin? What are your thoughts on a $90,000 Bitcoin?
Pre 10,000. I've been around in the era of pre 10.
Okay, so pre $10 Bitcoin. What are your thoughts on a
The first
92,000?
time I ever saw Bitcoin for sale, it was 75 cents, and I was like, what is this crap?
Fucking believable, dude.
92,000, 92.3. I mean, I don't have any thoughts right now. Just
what are your thoughts on a $1.84 trillion market cap for Bitcoin right now? What are your thoughts on Ethereum market cap being more than the market cap of silver right now?
Well, I do have a thought about gold underperforming like it did. And I think that the reason why that happened was because you got like China and Russia and a lot of these countries, and they all bought a lot of gold over the past 4 years. And now they're all kind of panicking and their economies are not looking good. And the reality is they're going to have to sell something. And the something that they have is gold. They don't have any Bitcoin. China doesn't have, the Chinese government is not able to, liquidate $100 trillion worth of Bitcoin or something. They have gold, and that makes gold look kind of bad because all the central banks have it as a hedge, and that they're going to need to liquidate it. Bitcoin, they don't have any. I mean, unless you're El Salvador, but El Salvador is doing fine. So Bitcoin it has a lot more upside and a lot less troubled institutions holding on to it compared to gold.
All right. Here's gold today. Let's see. Oh no, that's not gold. I thought that was gold. Could have sworn I had gold.
Yeah, it just hasn't panned out. I mean, once the election came, it was just kind of this little. It was a slump. It was XAU.
There it is.
There we go. Yeah, I think that's.
Well, everyone exited their gold position into Bitcoin is basically what happened.
Here's the chart on gold today. Wow, that is.
Yeah.
That is.
Peter Schiff basically sold his entire gold treasury and just put it all into Bitcoin.
Yeah, he went long. He went long on Bitcoin today.
Did he? Because
I don't know. I'm just joking.
I saw him posting that the Department of Government Efficiency isn't going to work because it's only advisory. And my comment to that was the guy who the guy who shorted Bitcoin, now he's shorting the Elon Musk. Don't do that.
Yeah. Look, I mean, someone had to do it.
Doge is pumping. Anyways, I need to sign off, but it's been nice chatting with you boys, and the future is bright.
Yeah, we're in let's see. So here's the Doge. Here's the Doge pump. Tell me what happens next.
Yeah.
I never.
Tell me what happens next when the U.S. president creates a department that's called Doge, being
I've
run by.
never owned a single Doge in my life, but I mean, at some point, it's going to be take profit time, as far as I can tell. But
I actually
Yeah.
bought Doge. I bought $25 worth of Doge in 2018, and it was worth about $600 last cycle. And yeah, my Doge position is looking pretty healthy.
On your $25, you just never plussed up on that.
I did plus up, but I bought Doge when Elon first pumped Doge,
Yeah.
and everyone was saying it was like during the.
It was like an NFL. It was like on an NFL.
It was during the same time as the pump on GameStop. Everyone was
Right.
saying that Doge, Silver, and GameStop, and what was the theater? The
AMC.
AMC. We're all gonna pump. So I just threw money into all of those things, and that was.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes you gotta just listen to what the degens are saying.
Yeah, no doubt. Yep.
All right, cool boys. Well,
Yeah, good
nice
chatting with you
chatting.
all. And yeah, it was great. I mean, again, just congrats, Kayla. Just my hat always goes off to you. Doing God's work, staying true to the vision. And I just, never forget about how this all started from a PowerPoint presentation. You taking a first class flight to California and made a PowerPoint presentation on the plane. And look where we are 6 years later. So it's really exciting. I think that there hasn't been clarity on how people can really participate in this network other than mining, and now stake to earn, and now hoping actually that this chat that we just had today really kind of shows people that there's an opportunity to really build things now. And obviously infrastructure is not a sexy word, but the people in this community are going to understand that infrastructure pays. And I think people are already understanding that, because you're not seeing a lot of people selling their yields. When people were mining, all they did is sold it. They mined, sold. Why? Because they had to pay for the servers. They had to pay their server bill every 30 days. And now we're seeing people that are staking, right? So that you mine, restake, or if people sell, it's fine, but you're seeing people who are more incentivized to facilitate the network. But now it's about actually building a real network that actually does something. And the effort that you exert, the effort that you put forth actually powers the network, not just powers the blockchain. And so fundamentally, as more and more people do this, take these actions, you're going to have a more connected, a more resilient, more distributed mesh network in Packet Network. And the second piece of that, and the third piece, is the entrepreneurs and the audience. So the people who decide, like, okay, cool, I'm going to put my business here. I'm going to put my gambling business here. I'm going to put my media business here. I'm going to sell a movie or create an e-commerce store, or create a blog. All the people that start using this network for just those things, that aren't even like, I don't care about infrastructure, but like, I'm really interested in being able to access audiences worldwide, instead of like it being regionally segmented. And also being beholden to whether Google thinks that you should be visible or not, which is I think that's when we talk about censorship resistance, like, Google is the biggest censor on the planet, not because they're trying to say that your e-commerce store should be censored. It's just that your e-commerce store is not going to be visible because you're not paying Google, or because you're not paying a lot of money to someone to optimize your website so that Google, its little robots, prioritize your website onto page one. And if you're not on page one or page two or page three, like, you're pretty much nowhere. You're suffering as a business. There's like some metric that shows like the drop off in revenue the further back you arrive on Google search. So that's where Packet comes into play. It's like, this is a new environment where, the people who participate here are going to be the people that are visible. And as we grow this community, that's going to, equal more visibility. And as Caleb said, you'll be a big fish in a smaller pond, and we're going to keep growing the pond. And then the next piece is audience, and that's really where we got to figure out how to get people to come here, why people are going to come here, why people want to be here. And that's really going to be based on what is happening here, what's being built here. And so that's where, the stewardship of getting more people to start building on the network just will help more people start coming to the network and using the network. And that all becomes possible, and really hasn't been possible until now. So I'm just couldn't be more excited for seeing the fruits of the labor finally materialize. And just want to obviously continue to say thank you to the community for sticking around. It's been some bumpy roads, but just seeing the markets roar to life, and bull market. What is this? Bull market 4.0 activated here. We know what happens if this is your second cycle. If you were here in 2021, you know what happens over the next 6 months. If you were around in 2017, 2018, you know what happens. And I love this one quote from a guy named Crypto Mikkel. He's a personality on YouTube, and he says that the top of each bull market will always surprise you. And yeah, we have no idea where this one's going to go, but if the start of the bull market is 92,000, if we're already basically 50% up on the first week of the bull market, yeah, tell me what happens next. So we're going to see some euphoria. Remember to take profits. A lot of people didn't take profits in 2021, so you don't get rich by taking a round trip. And any closing remarks, Caleb?
I don't know. I just opened TradingView, and there's a line. We just crossed it. I haven't opened that TradingView in 7 years.
Oh, a
My
trend line.
7-year-old TradingView has a line. We just crossed it. So take that as what you will.
Yeah, no. This is going to be it's not my words. It's another person that I follow, Carl the Moon Show. I hands down, I think he's the best trader in the world, in my personal opinion. Someone else. I'd love for someone to tell me someone else who's a better trader. Maybe he's just the best public, like guy who shows his portfolio and shows his positions. That guy opened up a $7 million long position on about a dozen different cryptocurrencies about 2 weeks based on the TA that he's doing. He's up like $10 million in the last 6 days. And I mean, it's just unbelievable, his positions. I mean, putting like 40,000 to, $2 million, 20x leverage long positions on cryptos that are, now up double digits and triple digits. Pretty remarkable. So there's just unbelievable opportunities in the marketplace right now, and there's work to do to get packet to where it belongs as far as price action goes. But it's good for people who are listening in to know that we're here building the actual real utility that makes this like a real project. It's not just a cryptocurrency. It's an ecosystem. It's a vision for the future, and that vision is really, really exciting. Josh, do you have some closing remarks?
Get in the game, stake your shit, don't fuck around, pack it to the moon.
Let's go to the moon, boys. All right. Well, thanks for everyone's time. It's good chatting. Thanks for everyone who stayed on this stream. Had a couple thousand people pop in, so that's very, very, very cool. Nice to see you drop in, and for the people who stayed long, we appreciate you. And yeah, till the next time, peace.